So, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes might only take you 2 hours to complete? What the... But before we get to this video, here's the question of the day. Alright, so I just read this article, and according to some Game Informer article, basically, the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes game, the campaign, aka the single-player storyline, story mode, is going to be up to 2 hours. That's according to this particular GI article. And they wrote via Kotaku, this is what they said: judged just by the core story mission, Ground Zeroes is short. We completed it in just less than 2 hours. The article also notes that the demo itself lasted 4 hours, enough time to play through the main mission and experiment with extra modes, whatever those extra modes will include. And the length doesn't necessarily have any bearing on the game's actual quality. Which is true. You know, I mean, this could be the greatest 2-hour experience ever. And this might be an incredible single-player game, but the fact remains that it's about a couple of hours. First of all, how the fuck does Game Informer get a really early copy of this game? That's what really pisses me off. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you how. They get sent these goddamn things, okay? The fucking company, Hideo Kojima's, whatever his label is, or his game company, I'm sure they sent him a copy of it. The publisher, they sent these guys copies. These reviewers, these so-called professional reviewers, get sent really early versions of these fucking games. And they get to essentially play the games far earlier than anybody else. And I think it's completely unfair. It fucking sucks, and I don't like that. Because, guess what? Then the game is out. To me, the game is out. When you start sending it to certain people, it doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck if it's only like 20 people, 30 people, 100 people. And they're all reviewers. They all review video games. It still means that you're fucking releasing it to a certain... the public. People in the public. People that are, you know, they get it early. And the problem too with that is that these advanced copies are fucking biased. Because essentially, the unwritten rules, and it's kind of not really spoken, but if I send you a fucking early copy of my game, you better give it a damn good score. You know what I mean? You better give it like pretty much a perfect score. Look at all these AAA titles that it happens all the time, you know? They send out early copies to these reviewers, and then it gets like a really high score. It's always the case. It's not necessarily because the game is good, but because they're entitled to do so. They're supposed to do that shit because they got an early copy of the game. You know, there's like, it's like a money thing, you know? I mean, what are they gonna do? Fix the game? Let's say they give it a bad review. Oh, this game sucks, it's got these flaws, it's only 2 hours long. It's not like the developer is gonna fucking change it last minute, you know what I mean? Like, the game is set to release, what, like next month or some shit? When is this game coming out? I think it's either next month or in several weeks. I think. Yeah, you know, this is really sad, man. I mean, what? So that's my first problem. The fact that, you know, you got the early copies. But even bigger than that, even more... A bigger problem that I really can't stand is that Metal Gear Solid 5 is divided, essentially. You have two shitty games instead of a single complete game. We're getting basically a half and half, or maybe not even half, but maybe like a 20% and then an 80%. Because guess what? The supposed sequel, that's what they said, the sequel to Ground Zeroes, Phantom Pain, this will supposedly be hundreds of times larger than Ground Zeroes. Did you catch that? Hundreds of times larger than Ground Zeroes. So what does that mean? Well, it means that Ground Zeroes itself is a fucking short, irrelevant piece of shit that sounds more like a demo, like a preview, you know, like a very early tech demo, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? It sounds like the opposite of what they do with Grand Theft Auto. You know, GTA comes out, GTA 4, the main game, and then DLC later on. You know, Lost and Damned, Ballad of Gay Tony, like shorter games, but added DLC, more content because people want to, I guess, experience more. It's divided basically. And even, you know, with Grand Theft Auto, you know they divided it from the very beginning. It's meant to be like that. They could have released it in a single disc or in a single package, all 3 stories, but they whore it out. That's what they do. They whore out these franchises now, and they're divided. They're fucking divided. It's split. Harry Potter 7 Part 1, Harry Potter Part 7 Part 2. You know, like a couple of years released within the, you know, that's what they do. Sequels, movies, they fucking do that all the time now. And sometimes you can understand, especially with a long fucking story. You know, that's like, oh, okay. It's a long movie, it's a long story, let's divide it up and focus on certain details. Sometimes I'm sure it works, you know, it's understandable, but at the same time, there's a money thing. And I don't like this. I just don't like it. I can't stand split fucking stories and then one is bigger than the other one. Because if Phantom Pain is that much bigger, then what's the point of getting Ground Zeroes? Who gives a shit about Ground Zeroes? What, it's a 2-hour experience, I guess. Cares? That's not much. Is that worth the money? Is that worth the full price? And then we get to the price. Apparently, the Xbox One and the PS4 versions will be $40 for the actual retail version. So if you buy it in the stores, the actual physical copy will be $40, and the digital, the download version, will be $30. The PS3 and the 360 versions will be $20 for the digital and $30 for the actual retail copy. $30. It still doesn't seem worth it. Maybe the $20 one for the 360 and PS3. So you're gonna get the shittier versions because it's the last gen versions. So you're gonna get the shittier graphics, probably crappier resolution, crappier frame rate, whatever they're missing, you know, missing certain features. And but for $20 for a relatively new game, you might want to download it. That's the one that I can recommend. But everything else, $30, $40, fuck that shit. Cares? Jesus. I mean, we're already seeing Metal Gear Solid like completely being torn apart, you know, whored out. You know, they had Revengeance or Rising Revengeance, whatever the fuck that was, that piece of shit that sucked. You know, they've whored out the Metal Gear characters to, you know, Smash Brothers and shit like that. And now you got Metal Gear Solid 5, which is like a sequel to one of the greatest games I've played, Metal Gear Solid 4. Single game, single experience, complete game. That was it. I don't think it even had a DLC. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but I thought that was the complete experience. You just bought the fucking game, that was it. Great fucking experience. Again, this doesn't seem important. It seems irrelevant. I wouldn't fucking buy this game. I think Metal Gear is done, I think. That's it. They want to make as much money as they can. I don't really blame them that much. It's just that shit hits the fan. The series has jumped the shark. It's over, you know? It's this Metal Gear shit has got to stop. It's got to end somewhere. The first one was a legendary fucking Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1. I know there was the earlier, you know, 2D arcade, I think the earlier games. Not arcade, but it was a Super Nintendo game. I forget. But the first PS1 game was really good. Legendary. You know, did a lot for the business. All the way up to Metal Gear Solid 4, I thought that was it, you know. I thought that was the fucking end of the franchise. You know, it felt good, felt conclusive. Tied it all up in a nice knot, in a fucking nice little package. There was closure. And then now you got 5, and it's like, okay, I don't give a fuck anymore. You know, who cares? Come on. Come on. And it doesn't help the fact that it's a cross-platform, cross-generation release. What's the big difference between the PS3 and the Xbox One, PS4 versions? Aside from the resolution and the graphics. So which one's going to be the best version? Which one should I get? Should I get the cheaper one because it's cheaper and it's just current gen, or should I get the next gen versions? But if the gameplay is going to be very like identical, then what's the point of getting the newer ones? You know, like why? It seems like this is not going to be a next gen experience to me. You know, it doesn't feel like a brand new amazing game that's so fucking vastly different and so incredibly amazing that takes advantage of the current, or I should say the next gen systems. Like this feels more like Call of Duty Ghosts, games like that, you know, Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, games like that, games that are still in that intergenerational phase where, you know, they're not utilizing the full potential of the next gen systems, but rather it's just released on that fucking system just because it's the current system to release it on, just because it's what's available at the time. But it doesn't advance the gameplay, it doesn't change anything amazing, it doesn't add anything breathtakingly different or innovative. It's just some fucking current gen game. Like, you know, this could have been released, you know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it would be just as probably just the same gameplay, you know. And here's the answer to the question of the day.